We are Christian mystics. And people ask what that is. What is a Christian mystic? Or what is Christian mysticism? Mysticism is a word that means inner and experience. It's experience of God on the inside. Experience of God inside you. That's what a mystic does. A mystic meditates. A mystic prays. A mystic contemplates. A mystic goes within their own being, looking for the source of God. And the difference between regular religion and mysticism is that a mystic is not satisfied with words. They are not satisfied with a belief, because a belief is just kindergarten for a mystic. A belief and a dogmatic assertion about the way God is, or the way life is, or the way Jesus is, that's not enough for a mystic. A mystic needs to know. Someone needs to know for sure what is real. And that can only come through experience. And so in Christian mysticism, just like there's a mystical path in each of the religions, in Buddhism it would be Zen Buddhism, in the Muslim path it would be Sufism, in the Judaic religion it would be the Kabbalah, and in Christianity it would be Christian mysticism. It's the mystics that become the ones that really know. It's the mystics that really have an experience of God. The rest talk about it and have a very strong belief in it, in their religion, but they don't really transform. So a mystic is one who becomes transformed. They become a true instrument for the being that they love. So, in this case, God. They become an instrument for God. And you can't do that unless you get very close to God, or unless you know God. And so, in the mystical traditions, there's always a teacher-student relationship. There's always one who teaches and one who learns. And the student does what the teacher tells them, or they don't get the experience. And the teacher is the one that guides the student, because they know. And the student gets to know because they do what they're given to do. And it's a meditative path, and there's prayerful devotions, and there's usually there's initiations in any of the mystical traditions. We have three. We have baptism, we have illumination, where your body fills with light, and then we have self-realization or God-realization, where you experience God, and you see God at the center of your being. That is a mystical path. It's not for everyone. It's for those who really want to know.
Father Peter, can you talk about the role of the heart in love?
Yeah. Yeah, the heart is the most important thing, especially for the mystics. Mystics meaning those who are having experiences of God, real ones. But the heart is, it's trouble and it's wonderful all at the same time. Because in the heart are both things, the passions and the negative desires and the negative feelings and the negative resentments and anger and fear and pride, but also the love and the faith and the compassion and the generosity and the stillness and humility and the longing and the patience. All of those are in the heart too. When one wants to be of the heart, they have to clean house. They have to clean out those things that keep the good stuff from expressing. So, a path of the mind is not a full path, because there has to be someone who loves. Excuse me. You don't have the ability to love, really, until you've been loved. Now, ultimately, we all, as souls, remember that when we were created, we were totally seen and completely loved by the being that made us. And when it looked at us, it loved us, and it cared about us, and it saw us as good. And it knew us, and it knew that it was part of it. So completely honored us, and completely supported us, which it still does. But we have really long since forgotten that connection. The only thing that we have a trace memory of is the fact that we feel the difference between what love could be and what love isn't. So we know when we're devastatedly empty of love. We know when it's not there. We know when we long for it. We know when there should be way more. We know when somebody's love is really conditional and weak, and we are disappointed. Sometimes we're mad about it. So the next phase is, if you find a spiritual community or you find people who can love you, then you have this whole new thing that happens where you're getting love at a depth and a level that most people don't even know. They couldn't possibly experience that because they had parents. You know, and I know some of you are parents and you're going, well, he's putting down parents. No, I'm trying to educate you. Be better parents if you're parents. Love better. Stop being conditional. But in a spiritual community, they learn to love in an unconditional way. They learn to value people. I know it's the beginnings of learning to see people how God sees them. And that is the path with heart. You have to have your heart on straight to do that. You have to be willing to let people love you and let them in and be vulnerable to them. At the same time, you have to be willing to love them in return and not, wait till they're good enough, which is conditional, or wait till they're safe, which is manipulative, or wait till they'll never hurt you because they'll always be perfect. Well, then you could wait till the cows come home, because they won't come home, basically. They are in the pasture for life. They're not going to come home. And so then you have another excuse not to open, not to love, and not to let love in. And a lot of people live that way. They live their whole miserable lives that way, never feeling the love. So the heart is the monitor of your purity also. It's the monitor of how much love you're letting in to wash those negative feelings out, and how much love you're letting out that purges you of the negative desires. And in that stream of love, in and out, you start to purify. When you get pure enough, like Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for you shall see God." He didn't say you'll make it up in your mind. He didn't say you'll imagine what seeing God might feel like. He didn't say you could conjecture what a blissful experience seeing God might be and talk about it for days, even get paid to talk about it. No, you're going to see God within you, is what Jesus said. I know that's very revolutionary, and mind candy people don't like that, and ministers don't like that, because ministers want you to see God when you die as the pie that you get to eat in the sky. It's the reward you get for a miserable life after you die, which is a completely false teaching. It's ridiculous teaching, and it's lies. It's total lies told to people. And people believe that garbage. The kingdom of God is within you. When your heart is clear, you'll see it.
So there's no way to separate love from God.
No, it's impossible. There's also no way to separate love from wisdom. Wisdom and love go together. It's not possible to be wise without love, without letting love in, and without letting love be given through your apparatus. Then you can be wise. Before that, you have no wisdom, because you haven't been introduced to love yet. In fact, if you haven't been introduced to love, or you don't experience love, you are still in fear and pride, which means you're still cut off from the being that created you. So there's no possibility of real love without connection with God.
So then in true love, is it also God inside of, if two people are experiencing true love within them and between them?
Yeah, well, hopefully it's not just hormones and exotic glandular explosions. Hopefully it's more than that. Hopefully there's something else going on besides the infatuation of the opiates storming the Bastille inside the heart. Because that's what's happening usually for most people. There's opiates just, producing an organic high. And that's not love, that's just, that's exhilaration, that's excitement, that's power moving in the body. Pretty much out of control. I would say horses without saddles or bridles for most people. Just wild horses. And that's very exciting for most people who don't have a grip on themselves yet. But later, that has to turn into something deeper. So when a person is really looking at another person and really seeing them, yeah, they are really actually honoring the God inside them, the good. They're starting with the good, they're starting with the stuff they love, they're starting with the stuff that they admire and they can look up to, and all those are good things that they're seeing in the other person. And for most people, they're actually seeing what they hope they are in the other person. And because they're a little delirious, they don't think they have those qualities, so they think the other person has all the qualities. And that's a nightmare for relationship. But we can talk about that another time.
So, Father Peter, there's a lot of sadness in the world and a lot of unrest. And I wonder, I know, like today when we were talking about that we can heal everybody. And why aren't people knocking down our doors, since we have what it would take to heal them?
The reason why people aren't knocking down our doors more is because they would have to make big changes, and they don't really want to make a lot of big changes. They want to have ideas that make sense to them, but as soon as the ideas have to be put into action, they don't like that, because they want to keep their old way of being, and they also want, say, peace, or they want love, but they're holding on to the very things that keep peace from happening, and the very things that keep love from happening. We could heal all of them in their hearts of all of these kinds of things, all the pain and suffering, all the anger and resentment and frustration and jealousy and fear and pride, all the things in the world. But you'd have to replace it with something else. Most people are too frightened to replace a negative with a positive because they don't know what they're going to turn into. They don't know what they're going to be like if they don't have that negative behavior, those negative feelings.
Well, I think also people think it's going to be boring. Like they're going to be bored if they don't have the stress in their life. Like if they just have peace sounds boring to them.
Peace sounds boring to most people. Unless they have emotions flying and desires all heated up and charged up, they feel like they would be kind of like sleeping. But they don't know peace yet. They don't really know peace, because if they did, they would be in love with life. They'd be in love with God, and they'd be in love with life if they really knew peace. And it's something that doesn't come from outside by making the environment all beautiful, or decorating nicely, or getting enough money. It comes from doing the inside remodeling, doing inside your heart, getting rid of the things that bug you, getting rid of the things that torture you and make you feel sad and make you feel angry. Forgiving a lot of people. That's the other problem. That people can only they can only feel peace if they forgive the people who have hurt them. And people don't want to do that, because they still want people to pay for all the things that they've done for them, to them, at them. They're resentful for the most part. They're reactive, most people. they have emotional triggers and particular things that get their goat. And as long as people and situations can get your goat, you don't have peace. Peace is a very deep thing. It's not a legislatable event. You can't legislate peace. You have to do it on the inside. I know that's very rebellious, because, you could make everybody be peaceful around you, and you could still be not at peace inside.